All right. So I thought it was a great lesson. Tell me what you think went well and where you think you needed to change.
Just like what we kind of talked about last time, I'll start with one of the things I'm working on. This was a good example of a lesson where there was some chit-chatting going on
Right.
and students talking over each other, or even talking over me. So like from my first goal, this is one thing that I definitely want to work on, fixing that classroom management a little bit.
Right.
The lesson had a lot of, the students were taking a lot of notes, but I'm trying to add more hands-on activities like we talked about last time as well. And this lesson didn't quite have a lot of that yet. So I'm working on that between the next lessons as well.
Uh-huh.
The lesson did have really good participation.
Yeah.
The students, they knew the answers to most of the questions. Yep. And if they didn't, they were approaching it. And as a class, we kind of came to that, to the correct answers as a group. So I think overall it was a pretty good lesson. It could have just used a lot more focus and hands-on learning.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good lesson, Paul. And I thought the way you did, there were various modalities. You know, you had a PowerPoint, you had the worksheet for them. They, their responses, I thought my Siri fixed that wrong, but how you had to like keep stretching and keep working with some of their responses to help them make a good connection, but that was really good too. They had tangibles, the SALT to work on, then they collaborated. So I thought there were a lot of really good things that you had them do that was more than just you lecturing. So I thought it was really good.
Thanks.
Yeah, activating their prior knowledge was good. I like how you used the graphic organizer, and it's a little different. So they had to, I think we graphic organize kids a lot, and it's challenging to find one that is a little different that they're going to have to pay attention to know how to fill in and make connections with, because sometimes we overuse that, but I thought that was a good one. And I liked how you set them up for success too, with having them get out all the stuff that they needed to. It's kind of makes it a little like, sometimes I rush and I don't take the time to do that, and then I'm paying for it in the end.
Yeah.
So I think it's beneficial to take that time in the beginning to do that, because then they have it where they need it, and you're not waiting for somebody, because there's inevitably somebody who is you're waiting for.
Yep.
Anna would be one of those.
Yep, definitely.
And she's in study skills with me, and that's what her and I are working on cleaning up, is she just doesn't trust her systems and can't find stuff still. So
yeah.
I like how you called on them when they weren't answering. You know, you called on them and they had to answer, and it wasn't just the standard ones who answer all the time. So that was good. I liked how you identified what it was and what it wasn't to solidify that knowledge. And also towards the end, you were asking them for antonyms. What's an antonym for this? Because that's a really good way to build in vocabulary improvement, is helping them do that. I went to a whole reading thing on that, and that's a really good strategy to use to help increase that vocabulary. And then I noticed those side conversations too throughout, and I see what you're saying about that. Yeah, they talk over each other. And so one of the things that I wondered about was maybe have right here, ask us as a student, ask a student for clarification. Maybe they could have like when they are, hang on, let me read this. This is not making sense to me. What I was thinking in my head and what my notes say, because maybe that's a different one. Let's go on to this part, and then I'll say the other one because it ties in. So when the students had to share their, write down 2 examples, you know, and you were discussing that, and then they had to come up with a third one. I wondered if you quickly shared that just to help those, like Diana's in that class, and, you know, some of those kids who struggle to process or make those connections. Maybe they
Yeah.
could benefit from everybody sharing their third example.
Okay.
Um,
That's
oh,
true, because by the end, they aren't getting 3 examples, they're getting 5 or 6 or 7 because they're getting other people's third example.
right. And then it really makes that connection solid.
Yeah.
I just thought of Sid and Diana are in that class, and those two need that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Amy doesn't,
Right.
and maybe you turn it over to her while you're monitoring her and making sure she's right and say, Amy, will you, clarify if that's an example or not, or what I don't know if maybe she's not as high as I think she is, but I don't
She
have her
is.
in
In
that.
this class, she is, yeah.
Yeah. Because other kids could do that too, right? It's not just the smarty pants. The other kids
Right.
could do it too, lead in
Right.
certain ways also. Let me, a student asked for clarification, could have other students. Oh, yeah. So as a student, somebody asked for clarification on something, and I wondered if maybe because Sid wasn't engaging and wasn't participating, in my classroom, I often just keep asking her, Sid, can you clarify that? Or Sid, what were the instructions in your perspective? Or if you summarize the instructions or the concept, what was it? Because
Okay.
she just kind of sits, she quietly flies under the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of is there. And I also wondered because I've had to think about this in my own classroom, with the masks on and you ask a question to everybody, it's hard to know who didn't answer, right?
Right. That's
Because
true.
like you can kind of hear around the room where they are, but like for Sid, for example, so I wondered do you say, touch your head if you say agree, touch your ear if you say no, or something, I don't know. It,
Right.
it seems and feels elementary like, but it's hard to tell with the masks on who's really participating, and Sid likes to fly under the radar.
Yeah. I
But
did do, I think in the third lesson that I recorded, I did something like that. And I agree, sometimes maybe as adults it seems elementary, but nobody complained, everybody did it,
yeah,
so.
yeah. And I often will explain to my students why I'm doing it. I can't see
Right.
your faces. And so
Right.
this might feel like back when you were in elementary school, but play along, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're usually really good to do that. I really liked all the monitoring that you did when they were doing the collaboration because, and I like how you give them that processing time, like I heard Hannah right off the bat, I think it was Hannah say, I don't know, do you? Which is a typical response from her,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I thought, I liked how you just paused and let them work it because then they got around to answering it. It just took them a little bit longer, and I think your walking around helped them go, oh yeah, we can't just say we don't know,
Yeah.
here it comes, we gotta say
Yeah.
something. So that subtle walking around was really good, I thought, because the collaboration what I could hear seemed to be better because you were walking around and monitoring, so it was good. So yeah, um, and I liked how you adjusted and paused that collaboration because they were struggling with the Pearl concept, and if it
Right.
was or wasn't and all of that, and had a discussion about a class. I often do that too. And I often remind them because sometimes the student that like you hear say something takes it personal and is like, oh, I got it wrong. And I often preface it with, hey, I just heard this group talking about this, and I like what they were saying because it made me think of this. Maybe we're struggling with how to, identify if it is or isn't. So let's talk about that for a second. So just so that they know it's not like punitive, it's,
Right.
we're all learning together here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. Very good coverage of those standards and everything.
Thank you.